This episode and others like it are made possible by the generous support of my patrons on Patreon. If you would like to help support this channel and get early access to every video, consider becoming a patron on patreon.com/CityScapes. Alright everyone, hi guys, CityScapes here and welcome back to Verville episode 53. It's great to think that already another month passed by since I recorded the last episode of Verville, and that is exactly the reason why I want to record those episodes in bulk. So once I get released, you don't have to wait for an indefinite amount of time till you get to see the next one. Unless, of course, you are one of my patrons, then you get to see those episodes whenever they are ready. But that, of course, is for you to decide what approach you prefer. Still curious how the YouTube algorithm will judge my decision here. Hopefully it works out, and yeah, it's gonna be happy to get around 10 episodes or so in a row. But I think, at least for me, I will definitely keep continuing that because it takes off a lot of pressure for me to have regular uploads, so I can record those videos basically whenever I want. So I think I'm gonna keep doing that. Alrighty, but yeah, let's talk about what's on the plate for today's episode. And I usually start off those voiceovers by explaining what exactly we did in the last episode. This was definitely setting up the base infrastructure for this whole district here that I'm working on right now. We still find ourselves in the outskirts of the city. We are developing not even a suburb anymore. It's just a completely detached village from Verville at the entrance of the valley where we will develop the Gotthard mountain pass in the future. The whole region is heavily inspired by the Flüelen region in Switzerland. And if you want to know more about the place where we took inspiration from and so on, definitely check out the last episode. I explained it back then in quite some details. Also spiced up the video with some Google Earth shots. And yeah, because just a simple plain road layout doesn't look super appealing in City Skylines. Oh yeah, maybe for some of you it does, but we definitely have to fill in all the gaps now with buildings, details, and fill up this whole area with life. A lot of the footage you get to see here has been recorded during the live stream on YouTube. It was the live stream when I also disclosed the winner of the Rigi Mountain Railway episode. So if you want to see the one-to-one process, not sped up or anything, you can definitely check out the uploaded live stream also here on my channel. I try to link it in the video if I don't forget it, and otherwise, yeah, let's just talk about what we see on the screen right now. The whole process of just placing buildings everywhere is super satisfying for me to do. because it really gives you the sense of making super fast progress in the building process. This is just a really nice feeling, and as soon as you hit the play button for the game simulation, it all starts to become really alive, because all the people are starting to move in, and the highway intersection will be quite heavily used and so on. But I think for the time-lapse episode, it's just I mean, it's super easy to just cut this all down, because it's quite repetitive actually. That's why we already jumped to the train station build. If you do your custom train stations, there are basically a million ways or even more on how to exactly build them, especially when you customize them. And since I wanted to recreate the Verville train station from real life, it was no question that I am gonna customize it heavily as well. My usual approach is to use those concrete barriers as the station platform rims, and then just slap surface networks on top of it, maybe adjust it a little bit with a node controller. But I think in real life those platforms are in general 8 meters wide, if I'm not mistaken. So the 8-meter wide surface network is just perfectly suited for that job. And for the platform roofs, I usually just use Titan's station platform buildings, or however they are called. Just get rid of everything except the roof. The next step is usually building the actual station building, which can that process can vary a lot. It really depends on what exactly you try to achieve, and since I'm trying to recreate stuff, I definitely have to do all of that with PO. So I usually just grab a building where I think the facade resembles the real life place pretty well, and I'm gonna get rid of all of the building except from one side of the facade, and then just put this little piece together to create a whole new building, like you can see me doing right now. Of course, you also have to think about with what you're gonna cover those 4 walls. And it's also always a pretty interesting task what type of roof you're gonna use. In this case, I went for just the normal concrete slabs, because in real life this station building is also pretty simple, I would say. Tried to grab a Google Earth shot of the station building, but unfortunately the whole area is only in 2D. Really shows that the whole area doesn't really have a lot of significance to Google, right? But anyway, it was a super fun process building this station building. I think I really nailed the yellowish color pretty well. But yeah, there was also a lot of freestyle and own imagination involved. So I extended the station building on one side with those more industrial looking buildings. I think this always goes really well together. Then I had to fence off the rail tracks a little bit, just for safety for our citizens here. Those tracks where I just put the fence and is now visible on the right side of the screen, they are for the high-speed trains that go from the Verville main station directly to Art Goldau. That's where they do another stop and then head straight to the Gotthard base tunnel, straight through the Gotthard mountain and heading to Milano Centrale in Italy. This little spot here I decided to do another little ramp, another access to the station platforms. And in this case I went for a spiral ramp for better accessibility, also for the disabled. And definitely also because it just looks a bit more interesting than having the stairs going everywhere. It was quite tricky in this spot here, building in such a narrow place with so many terrain differences. You quite have to cover a lot of those little glitches in the terrain. Oh man, I really wished for a higher terrain resolution, but yeah, I don't think that is possible, unfortunately. This reminds me of a little insider story. I asked, can't recall his name, Kritsku or something like that, the guy who made FPS Booster, and we tried to figure out a way how to make even bigger maps or smaller maps for that reason. I would say scalable maps. So you could actually shrink a map down, having higher terrain resolutions, which could have been pretty cool. I think most people would have probably have gone for even larger maps, even though I personally don't really understand the point in having even bigger maps, because there's no way you're gonna fill it all anyway. I was more interested in removing the terrain height limits, because I wanted to build a ski resort, the really mountainous regions, perfectly to scale, but yeah, it kind of worked a little bit, but there were so many issues involved in the background with the pathfinding for the vehicles and the sims and so on. Yeah, we had to abandon that idea. I mean, not that I programmed anything or so. I mean, I was basically just trying to motivate him to continue on this mod, but yeah, it's turned out it's a pipe dream. Yeah, anyway, in this whole region here, I mean, there's not, there's nothing too crazy going on. I mean, the highway is quite busy in real life in that area, because, as I said, it's the entrance point for the Gotthard ramp that leads all the way up to the actual Gotthard tunnel. Only speaking of the highway, of course, the train takes the Gotthard base tunnel, which has been opened in 2016, which has a really low elevation, because it's exactly on the foot of the whole mountain range. But the highway has to wind its way all the way up until Göschenen, which sits at an elevation of 1,111 meters. That's pretty funny. Therefore, you will find quite a bit of car-related infrastructure in those areas, like bigger shopping malls and rest areas along the highway. But apart from that, it's definitely also great for hiking trips and stuff like that. But yeah, other than that, not much more going on. That's why I decided to do a lot of landscaping stuff in this area here, checking out those new I mean, at this point they are definitely not new anymore, they're quite old already, the farm networks you can see me using here, and man, together with node controller, those are insanely OP. I mean, look at how easily you can create those farmlands like that. It's actually crazy, and they also look really great from every distance. Here on the right you can also see how I squeeze them in perfectly between different roads. It's yeah, it was a really fun process doing those farmlands. I still remember back in the day when I started off this series, you had to use Surface Painter, and therefore you didn't have a lot of variety. You could also use the resources brush, I think it's called, or of course the normal farmland buildings, but yeah, this is just on a whole other level. Right now I was probably appreciating the area a little bit and talking to you guys on the stream. Forgot to cut this out, but I think it's also nice from time to time to appreciate the build progress we made at this point already. Alright, so what exactly am I doing here now? In those areas, in those mountainous areas in Switzerland, you find a lot of hydroelectric power plants. We usually have artificial lakes on the hilltop somewhere in the valley where we build a dam. And then you can always see those super steep pipes coming down from the mountain top. That's where the water with super high pressure comes down from the mountain and powers the turbine in the valley. And that's exactly what I tried to do here. Unfortunately, I didn't have the best pipe assets for that, but I really don't want to subscribe to even more assets for Verville. So I just work with what I have. As you can see, they, depending on the camera angle, they disappear and stuff like that, but it's not too big of a deal. Just had to pay a little bit more attention when recording the cinematics, so it's not too visible. And for the actual power plant, I use this, I think it's the brewery asset from Titan, the modular brewery asset. They just fit the style perfectly, because usually those power plants, they have been built a really long time ago already. Most of them at the start of the electrification of the railway, which happened pretty soon in Switzerland, because we don't have coal mines and stuff like that, so we were super dependent on imports. That's why we decided from a very early stage already that we have to electrify our whole railway system. And at this point it's over 99% of our railways completely electrified, which is that's pretty cool actually. In real life, as I said, there would be an artificial lake on the hilltop, but I thought in this case here there's not really a point in making that, because we are focusing on the valley down here anyway. And it looks good in the cinematics, and everyone gets the idea. At least that's what I hope. As usual, spicing things up a little bit, some props here and there. Thought it would make sense to fence off those high pressure water pipes a little bit, because it wouldn't be too great if someone decided to sabotage those. And because those assets are definitely, those pipe assets I mean, are definitely not the latest and greatest, you can see that they don't really form a nice smooth bend where they change direction, so I just covered it with a concrete block. And then here next to the highway I just plopped down some of those vanilla sewage outlets, which I thought make a great job in representing the water outlets from the power plant. So yeah, just butchered them a little bit with procedural objects, and later on, or right now better said, also placed those animated waterfalls, which are always a super great asset to use. But guys, holy moly, that's already been it for today's episode of Verville. Thank you each and everyone so much for watching. That really flew by this time. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Consider becoming a patron when you want to get early access to the episodes and financially want to support this channel and the work I do here. Check out my Instagram, Discord, Twitter and all of that good stuff. And I am really looking forward to see you in the next one.